Hello and a very good evening to all of you watching Rwanda Television News. It is time for news in English presented to you by me, Friday James. Now let's look at the top stories today. His Excellency Paul Kagame officially opened the Kigali Convention Center that is primed to host the 27th African Union Summit. First Lady Jeannette Kagame urged Rwandans to grow a generation free of AIDS as she launched new drive to end HIV prevalence among Rwandan youth. 5 police officers have been shot dead in the U.S. city of Dallas by 2 snipers at a protest over the recent police killings of black men. Welcome again. Now, true to Rwandan spirit, we keep learning from our failures and we finally succeed. The statement was made by President Paul Kagame at the launch of the Kigali Convention Center, a 5-star hotel on Friday. The center will host the 27th African Union Summit to begin on Monday.
Many Rwandans have been appreciating the magnificent Kigali Convention Center situated at Kimihurura, Kigali City. While inaugurating the hotel, President Paul Kagame said the completion of the Kigali Convention Center failed many times but finally succeeded owing to the unwavering spirit of the Rwandan people.
First, true to the Rwandan spirit, we tried to put up this facility many years ago. We failed. Not once, not twice, maybe 3 times, but on the 4th trial, we succeeded. Rwandan spirit is in a sense that we have not failed once, we have failed many times. But we have succeeded many more times than we have failed. And we keep learning from our failures. We keep trying, keep failing, but we keep trying, and we finally succeed. And this is really what happened in the case of this facility. And on the 4th attempt, why we succeeded, it was also because of the pressure of opportunity that was presented to us by the AU offering us to host the summit that we are going to host.
The head of state said the Kigali Convention Center was inspired by Rwanda's traditional homes and that it will be the pride of the country.
So, and as I said, throughout the process, we were failing and trying again, failing and trying again. So I'm very happy that today we stand here to celebrate a conclusion of the immense work that has been put into this, and we can proudly look back on those efforts as well as we host our very important summit of the African Union, which will definitely make Rwanda and do Rwanda proud, as it will do Africa, as Rwanda and Africa are one and the same.
The complex will host the upcoming 27th African Union Summit that kicks off on July 10th and will run through the 18th. The hotel was constructed by Turkish engineering firm Suma. It is built on over 13 hectares with 292 rooms and 470 staff, 98% of which are Rwandans. Kigali Convention Center construction cost stands at $300 million, an equivalent of 223 billion Rwandan francs.
Thank you, Topista, for that story. Now, Rwanda's First Lady is calling on Rwandans to build a country with youth free of HIV/AIDS. Mrs. Jeannette Kagame made the appeal on Thursday during the launch of the All-In campaign aimed at raising awareness on adolescent HIV/AIDS. She noted that the number of young people in Rwanda taking HIV tests is still very low. We have the story.
The campaign, dubbed All-In, meaning that no one should be left behind in the fight against HIV/AIDS, attracted 2,500 youth from all over the districts of the country. The campaign that was launched by the First Lady, Mrs. Jeannette Kagame, and attracts involvement of different leaders is part of a wider global push to eradicate HIV/AIDS infections among the youth by 2030. Wasena Deje, 25 years old, who became aware that she was HIV positive at the age of 16, says she has started to look at life in a positive way. I am a beautiful lady, happy and educated. I finished my degree in botany and environment conservation at the University of Rwanda.
Botany and environment conservation.
The First Lady stressed that people like Nadege should not be discriminated against because, like anyone else, they have dreams and the potential to do great things in life. Despite achievements made in the fight against HIV/AIDS, the First Lady said that 30% of the country's youth between the ages of 10 and 24 still don't seem to understand the importance of taking HIV tests.
Iyo urebye isuzuma ikigo cy'ubuzima mu Rwanda cyakoze ku cyiciro cya mbere cy'ubukangurambaga All-In and Adolescent.
When you consider assessment made by Rwanda Biomedical Center in the first phase of the All-In Adolescent AIDS campaign, 27% of the girls go for HIV testing and counseling, while 22 boys do the same. So you notice that participation is still low, and you wonder why so. Is it that you're not aware of presence of these services, or the concerned institutions and individuals are not helping enough? I would like to urge you to go to health centers to test for HIV, because it is the safest way to know your HIV status. We should work together to protect our children from HIV, and let's continue the efforts to build our country free of HIV.
Dukomeze imihigo yo kubaka u Rwanda ruzira urubyiruko rufite ubwandu.
Only 33% of the pregnant adolescents test for the virus before delivery, yet the risk of transmitting the virus to the unborn is high during this time, and knowledge of whether or not the mother is infected is critical in protecting the baby. The UN country representative in Rwanda, Lamin Mani, thanked the government of Rwanda for the effort made in fighting against HIV/AIDS, most especially among the youth because they are the pillars of tomorrow.
We also note that more than 8 out of 10 people living with HIV in Rwanda know their status. 81.5% of them are now on antiretroviral treatment, and mother-to-child transmission rates have been kept below 2%.
Young people present echoed the importance of teaching them about the HIV/AIDS and how to protect themselves. What I have learned from this campaign is to abstain from sex and treat people living with HIV like other human beings. We have learned a lot from here as youth because youth nowadays find it hard to abstain from sex. I have learned the dangers of HIV and how I can protect myself against it. Parents who hide the truth about their HIV status from their children and give antiretroviral drugs to their children without telling them were criticized. At the event to launch the All-In campaign, Mrs. Kagame recognized the districts of Nyanza, Gakenke, Karongi, and Kirehe for preventing and mother-to-child transmission of HIV/AIDS in the last 2 years.
Our African countries are being urged to pick a leaf from Rwanda on ways of promoting gender equality, especially the women, as per the Maputo Declaration. This was mentioned during the third high-level panel on gender equality and women empowerment, which brings together over 400 participants from AU member states.
Rwanda has been commended for its programs in supporting the welfare and growth of women, leading to 64% of women parliamentarians in the country, while citing a big number of women in leadership positions.
Women are part of the work that is being done in Rwanda, as it should be. So Rwanda is showing us how it is possible. It's not something that is impossible. So thank you, Rwanda, for showing us that it can be done. And I hope that all the women who are here are saying, yes, it can be done and it will be done.
Participants at the high-level meeting applauded the efforts done to ensure that the women have been empowered, as was seen in the He for She program.
Closing the gender gap is not only a moral issue, which it very much is, but closing the gender gap is certainly not a charity issue. Closing the gender gap is the smart thing to do for both women and for men, for boys and girls.
Her Excellency Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, the chairperson of the African Union Commission, who was awarded for her role in supporting the women, explained that supporting a woman or women is possible and should not be seen as doing a favor for them.
Progressive men, like here in Rwanda, help women in their struggle. It's a struggle. Progressive men will help, like Thomas Sankara that I quoted. But we shouldn't think that when we ask for 30% and we get it, it's because of the largesse of men, and that women's rights are not human rights. Women's rights are human rights.
The third high-level panel on gender equality and women empowerment is aligned with the AU theme of the African Year on Human Rights, with a particular focus on the rights of women.
A report by the Committee on Social Affairs, Human Rights and Petitions revealed to the Senate that a cross-section of Rwandans don't test for non-communicable diseases, which eventually leads to claiming their lives because treatment is costly. Statistics revealed by Rwanda Biomedical Center in 2014 indicate that at least 36% of non-communicable diseases claim citizens' lives. This has been highlighted by the Commission in charge of Social Affairs in the Senate as a concern, since Rwandans suffer from these diseases without knowing. Only 0.3% of Rwandans go to the hospital for general checkup when they are not suffering from any disease. When the Committee on Social Affairs, Human Rights and Petitions in the Senate visited different service organs, including hospitals, they revealed that many Rwandans don't know their stand when it comes to non-communicable diseases.
abantu ntibazisobanukiwe umenya ko wayirwaye nyine wayigize ndetse yageze ku rwego.
The fact that people don't understand them, you know about it only when you are sick and the medication is insufficient to heal or save your life, because they were diseases that needed daily treatment. Even when you get treatment, you find medication too expensive, even for the health insurance.
Za assurance zakoraho hamwe hakagiraho zivuga ziti biraturenze.
The belief of some citizens that local herb medicine will heal them, yet also they don't see any signs of sickness, is also seen as a big challenge. Additionally, professionals who treat such diseases usually go into other businesses, which creates much concern. The problem at hand is to ask if you can go to RST and get tested, but you rather find bushes and you wonder what will happen. If it is a problem of permission to talk about their work, then I think it is against the law to advertise medical services and products. Not only in Rwanda, it is an international law. What can be done for those doctors who are trained with government money and leave? We are now promoting Made in Rwanda, and the training is now Made in Rwanda. What is the Ministry of Health doing to make this happen? The senators echo to have a national drug authority to test the standards of the medication in the country. The report also reveals that most of the experts from public hospitals migrate to private hospitals because of money. Senators here proposed a private statute for doctors. Among the activities on the agenda of the 27th African Union Summit in Kigali from 10th to 18th July this year is the election of the new Executive Committee of the African Union Commission. The current chair, Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma of South Africa, is to step down after holding the position for the last 4 years. However, the election is a stiff contest with strong candidates from the region. RBA spoke to Ambassador Joseph Senjimana, who has headed Rwanda's missions in different countries, and representative at the AU in Ethiopia and the United Nations in New York about the issue.
The region, through different countries of the region, take the candidate of the region as a representative of the region. And on that situation, I think every region want to have representative at the African Union Commission. The criteria of competence comes after the criteria of politics in general. And I am of the view that Africans, out of the influence from West generally, have to take a position mainly according to the capability, to the competence of the candidate who can lead Africa to the Commission of African Union, to the best for the people of Africa and for the whole nations of Africa. That is my point.
That's what it should be. But what's behind these regional politics when we talk of sub-regional arrangements, each sub-region trying to force into their own candidates, and another maybe again coming in the language of former colonial masters, which language they speak in most, let me say, English or French, ignoring maybe Spanish and Portuguese.
In fact, Africa is not completely liberated from the influence of former colonial powers. And these former colonial powers want to have their influence through the candidate or through the leader who is in the African Union Commission. It is a pity, but it is a fact. So I think Africans will have to be conscious that the politics were managing for African Union, for African Union Commission, have to be mainly guided by the interest of African people and African nations. And it is not necessarily all the time the case. But what I can say is that there is an increasing understanding in the leaders of Africa that Africa has to be led, to be managed by Africans for the interest of Africans.
What is still lacking for that spirit to prevail?
Generally,
Pan-Africanist?
It is a matter of interest, because when a country presents a candidate, it is in his interest to have a candidate and to have a leader of the African Union Commission. Every country in Africa have to build the interests of the common Africa, common Africa interests, before his own interest as an individual and as more than the whole
interest of one single nation.
Yes, a nation.
But again, what all has to affect when it comes to the management of the AU as a regional body? What does it affect? How does all this have any impact to?
In fact, all is a matter of competence of the candidate. When a candidate is competent and has Africans' view before a regional or individual interest, he generally consult through the institutions, existing institution in the commission and outside of the commission. But if he is not competent, not enough competent, the tendency is that he or she will search for a backup from the region and will not be a leader for the whole commission, for the whole nations of Africa, but really the leader
serving the region, sub-region. Yeah.
Yes, that is the risk.
Thank you, Pascal Buhura, for that interview you conducted. Now we're heading off. A cross-section of visitors and foreigners have started to descend into the country ahead of the 27th African Union Summit. Most say Rwanda has given them more than they thought of the country.
With just a few hours to go before the kickoff of the 27th African Union Summit, Kigali City is waving different flags of the African continent, new roads in place, among other infrastructures that have officially been opened. According to residents, this makes the city outstanding. I was from Kimirongo, and as soon as I got to Lando, I saw various flags. Same thing I saw at Peage and even here in town. This is very impressive, and I urge the organizers and all residents to keep up the good work and to continue supporting the country's endeavors. I was very surprised when I got to town and saw flags everywhere. I had to ask, what's happening? I was told that the country will host an important meeting. Kigali has really grown. Every day we see something new. I am very impressed. These changes do not only surprise Rwandans but also the foreigners visiting the country, who say that the country has grown in tremendous ways, knowing what happened in the country during the 1994 genocide that was perpetrated against the Tutsi. This, according to them, is very surprising.
Rwanda is a good country. After the genocide, one would have expected Rwanda to be worse off. But it's amazing. Rwanda has developed within a short time. And looking at the women representation, it's even impressive because 60% of decision makers in parliament are women, in cabinet are women. So you can see Rwanda is doing very well.
The country itself has really changed. And I think the discipline which His Excellency President Kagame has put into this country has made a very big difference. You see the place is very clean. Everybody notices how clean Rwanda is, how people do not throw papers, and how people try to be very organized and very disciplined.
Many of those who have arrived in the country commend the services offered to them from the airport to the various hotels they stay in.
Now, statistics indicate that the number of women working with financial institutions has grown over the years, while the government continues to work closely and to promote them. This comes at a time when Rwanda prepares to host the 27th African Union Summit, which will be held under the theme, quote-unquote, 2016, African Year of Human Rights, with particular focus on the rights of women. That is it.
The government of Rwanda, in its 7-year programs, that is 2010 to 2017, aims to have 80% of the citizens get financial inclusion. By last year, this number stood at 72%. This program will see at least 50% of women access loans from small financial institutions like SACCOs. Numbers show that the loans given to women stand at 12%, while in the microfinance institutions, this number stands at 22%, while at the cooperatives and SACCO, it stands at 23%. This comes when women investors and youth who have no guarantee, BDF Bank steps in and supports them with 50 to 75% of the needed guarantee. All these programs are set up to support women and their programs. The 27th African Union Summit that is slated for the 10th to the 18th of this month will be held under the theme African Year of Human Rights, with particular focus on the rights of women.
Welcome back, and of course, if you just started watching, this is the news in English on Rwanda Television. Now, as we proceed on to the international scene, we start off in Somalia, where 26 years of civil war has reduced Somalia's capital of Mogadishu to rubble. Now, the city is slowly being rebuilt with money donated by residents and a diaspora returning from years in exile.
Motorists in Mogadishu wade through flooded pothole roads. 3 decades of war have had a devastating impact on infrastructure. Yet there seems to be a new resolve to shed these images of destruction. Across Mogadishu, some of the city's most important roads are being rebuilt. At least 20 kilometers of the city's roads have recently been tarmacked, work funded by its citizens. Leading the efforts are city businessmen and religious leaders.
We decided to take action after seeing how difficult it is for people to take the sick to hospital and the dead for burial. We said it was now time to help ourselves.
It's all part of a can-do attitude across Somalia.
The work we have done so far has attracted the attention of external donors who now want to help. We told them we won't wait for them, and they are free to catch up with us.
The new roads have triggered a construction boom. Across the city, normal life is slowly returning. For many years, Somalis abroad have provided a lifeline with cash remittances home. Some exiles have now returned to Somalia, hoping that their private investments will deter their countrymen from lawlessness and crime. Decades of conflict and civil war have damaged Somalia's international reputation and opportunities for foreign investment. Few are still willing to invest in what was until recently known as the world's foremost failed state. Somali President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud wants more investments from Somalis in exile.
The Somali money that's outside Somalia, if it comes back, it will make a lot of difference in the ground, and our need or dependence on outside will be reduced drastically.
For now, Somalis say they will make do with what they have. They hope the new roads and buildings will be pathways to new beginnings. Mohammed Adu, Al Jazeera, Mogadishu, Somalia.
Now, thousands of unexploded bombs are scattered across the Gaza Strip. They are remnants of the Israeli wars on the territory. Since the last Israeli bombardment ended 2 years ago, more than 3,000 exploded bombs are being found, while many more remain hidden.
For Ibrahim Abu Mughazib, walking through his farm has become a struggle. 2 months ago, he suffered shrapnel wounds after he detonated a bomb left over from Israel's 2014 war on Gaza.
I was working in my field when a device exploded. I was injured in my leg, shoulder, and arm. The authorities need to clear this area. It's not safe.
Abu Mughazib's case is common. The United Nations says since the most recent Gaza war ended in a ceasefire 2 years ago, 7 Palestinians have been killed and more than 60 others injured by the remnants of war. This is where police in Gaza store and catalog explosives found. Some of the devices are relatively small, while others are capable of enormous destruction. Since the end of the 2014 war, Gaza police have recovered around 3,300 unexploded ordnances. And while the exact number of unexploded ordnances that remain buried or hidden in the rubble remains unclear, it's estimated that at least 4,000 are still out there.
انتشار للمخلفات.
The explosives remaining across the Gaza Strip are on a wide scale. We have major difficulties in removing the devices because we lack adequate resources. Every week we are called to go and check a site where a device is exploded, sometimes injuring children playing in the fields.
It's not just explosives from the 2014 war that bomb disposal experts are trying to clear. Israeli arms from previous conflicts are also still being uncovered. The United Nations estimates that, on average, for every square kilometer of the Gaza Strip, there are 200 unexploded munitions, which is why Ibrahim Abu Mughazeb remains so concerned. While he recovers from his own injuries, he fears that, if nothing is done soon, it won't be long before someone else is killed or injured. Imtiaz Taib, Al Jazeera, Gaza.
Now that story sums up tonight's bulletin, but before we leave, let's take a look at the headlines. His Excellency Paul Kagame officially opened the Kigali Convention Center that is primed to host the 27th African Union Summit. First Lady Jeanette Kagame urged Rwandans to grow a young generation free of AIDS as she launched new drive to end HIV prevalence among Rwandan youth. Elsewhere, 5 police officers have been shot dead in the US city of Dallas by 2 snipers at a protest over the recent police killings of black men. Thank you so much for staying tuned in. Have yourselves a lovely evening and a good night.